You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacalyn.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. We are so happy to have you with us. You are watching USA Global TV. And our show today is Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn presents I Have a Story to Tell. Except it's not my story, it's my guest's. I'm your host, executive producer, director, and broadcast engineer. My guest today is Daniel Wood. Let's bring him on. Hi, Daniel. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I appreciate it.
It's nice to see you. Daniel helps people create passive income, okay? Isn't this exciting? Passive income through property investing. And he's going to give us some tips so that it's not so scary, so it doesn't seem so overwhelming to people, because investing can definitely be that way. But he's the co-founder of Momentum Property Education, and he is offering a free introduction to property investing. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So Daniel, what was it that got you interested in this line of work?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I'm honored to be here on the show. For me, it started really when my oldest son, William, was born. And so in Sweden, where I live, we have a lot more parental vacation than we do in the U.S. So what happened was I was home for 2 weeks with my wife and my little son. And we would every day we would take walks right outside, and we'd have this little daycare we'd walk by. And every morning we would take a walk at maybe 7 a.m. and we would see, the kids were already there at daycare playing. And then during the day we would take more walks. And then at around 6 p.m. we would look down and we would see the exact same kids playing that we saw at 7 a.m. in the morning. And we realized that those kids were actually spending more time with their teachers than they were with their parents. And that's when the realization hit us that our son was actually going to spend more time with his teachers than he was going to be with us when we went back to work. And that's when we started searching for something different. How could we change our lives and have a different alternative? And that's what kind of started us on the hunt that brought us to property investing.
I love that story. That is really beautiful. You came to the realization that you and your wife were not going to have as much time with him as a stranger. That's
exactly.
And what could you do to change that? So you started doing your exploration and your research. What did you find?
Well, I read a lot of different books. I read a lot of, personal development, Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins. And then I read a book that I'm sure you've heard of, but Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I got, in that book, they talk about how to start thinking differently. And they started talking about it, property investing. And I got so excited. My wife read the book as well. She got just as excited. And we said, all right, let's do property. So we logged into our bank account and realized we weren't millionaires. And kind of said, wait a sec, how do you get into property if you can't afford to buy property? And that kind of stopped us. But there was a few weeks later, I saw when I was on LinkedIn, there was just this ad saying, hey, free seminar on property investing. So I signed us up, and I actually didn't tell my wife. I said we were going on. I'd organized a romantic day together. I got my mom to take William. And so we started out with a brunch, and then we took a walk through the archipelago here that is Stockholm. And as we were standing there looking out over the ocean, I turned to her and said, honey, I got a surprise for you. We are going to a seminar on property investing.
Woo! Yay!
And I said, but I've also booked a really nice dinner for after, just in case she wasn't excited. But she said, oh, wow, that is so awesome. Let's go. So, I'm lucky the woman I married. And we went to the seminar. We got really, really excited. We bought everything they had to sell. and we decided to start our property journey. And what they helped us see is that the Swedish market is really, really hard to invest in. It's heavily regulated. It's very taxed. The banking system does not, is not built to help small investors. If you have, $30 million plus, you're fine. But if you're below that bracket, which, we were regular employees, we didn't have anywhere close to that kind of money. It was a very closed market. So we identified the UK as a better market to invest in. And we hired a mentor, a very experienced British investor, and we decided to go start investing in the UK.
Fascinating story. So I want to go back just a little bit. So you said we bought everything that they had. So what did they offer you at this seminar? What did they present?
And we jumped all in, both feet first. So the first thing they sold was, from that seminar, they sold a 3-day workshop. And we said, all right, we're all in. We're doing that. We showed up at the workshop and we were all in. We're there first in the morning. We were the last people that they got rid of in the evenings. And for 3 days, we were all in. And finally, they sold the opportunity for us to buy their mentor course. And we were really excited. And we went to the UK to meet up with our mentor. Great guy, and he really helped us set up our business. Sadly, there was a but to this story, that it's not always as easy as maybe it seems sometimes. They made it sound very, very easy. They were going to connect us with all the perfect people, all the perfect contacts. All we'd need to do was raise money and we would buy property. But sometimes reality, which I'm sure you've experienced as well, is not always as good as it sounds in the sales pitch.
Absolutely correct. We do have a comment from Cindy. Hi, Cindy. Thank you so much for being here. It's good to have you. Cindy, if you have any questions, or anybody else out there, if you have any questions for Daniel, please go ahead and put them in the comments. So you bring up a really good point, that because you go to a seminar, people presenting things, that doesn't mean that every seminar that people go to, everything that people are offering there is a good fit, or that it's authentic and that it's led with integrity. So I find this fascinating, your story, because you decided you wanted to do this investing, but it wasn't going to be, I'm assuming, it wasn't going to be where you can drive by and see the property, right? Because
I'm 1,000 miles away, right?
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about that, because there's been a whole school of thought when it's investing in real estate, you should be able to drive by, or somebody can drive by. So you hired someone that was going to take care of the visual aspect of it as well. So making sure that it's still there.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where it gets challenging, because it's great in theory to say you should be investing in places where you can just drive by. But if you're in an area that maybe isn't conducive to what you're trying to do, so for example, for me in Sweden, right, there is nothing where I can drive by where I'm going to have cash flow. Or an example from the US might be if you're in San Francisco, great city, amazing capital appreciation, but generally not a lot of cash flow. And if you're not in a place in your investing career where it's capital appreciation you're after, you might be starting out trying to build that cash flow. Well, it's going to be hard to invest somewhere in a drive-by range. So you have to be able to go outside of your area. You have to find other ways. And that's what we were thinking. We were thinking, all right, we're all in. And they promised to connect us to amazing people. And we went over and, we were introduced to this team. And we were told they were all trustworthy. And so we went all in. They told us, go out and raise money. So we were kind of the perfect students, right? When they say jump, we said, well, how high? And we went all in. We raised money from investors. We put it into these deals. And then things started going wrong. We got ripped off.
All right, question.
Builders. Yes.
Sorry, question. I think this is important for our audience. So when you say you started raising capital, raising investment, had you done this before?
No, we were totally naive, right? We were told by our mentor, go out, say this, do this, raise that. This is the structure. And we were raising money on very high interest, short-term loans from investors, which is, and I'll get to why that's the worst way to do it. But, that's what we're raising. We're raising kind of massive, or at least for us at that time, massive amounts of capital. And then we started putting it into these deals in the UK. And
okay, question.
Yes.
Sorry. Only because so many people are interested in this, in earning passive income. So we want to point out all the things along the way that could be a red flag. So now, did they provide you with a script?
Nope.
No. So you're picking up the phone and you're calling someone and you're telling them that you want them to invest in a specific deal?
Yeah. So basically they said, look, just get a deal. Well, basically they said what I'm sure if you've been to a seminar like this, you've heard the saying, if the deal is good, the money will come. Like, all right, sure. So we have this great deal. Now, money, come to us, please. And, we're calling people and we're telling them about this deal. And we'll say, look, this deal is going to give us bigger returns. So lend us the money at this insanely high interest rate, fixed interest for a year, and then we'll pay you back. And that's really good in theory. But the problem is if things don't go according to plan, then you could be in big trouble. And that's what kind of started happening to us is we got ripped off by builders. Our supposed partners turned out that they stole money from the company. We had an architect who, let's just say, misdesigned a house. It was a 3-floor building, and he thought it was a good idea to make the stairwell to the second and third floors through the living room of the bottom floor flat apartment. So that was problematic. So yeah, we had a lot of things come up, and our big problem was we'd been told that everything was going to go fine. We raised the money and these experts were going to run it for us. So we kind of let them drive the car. We kind of just sat back and let them do their thing. And that thing caused us to lose about 400,000 pounds, which is say about $500,000. Yeah, and that was, like I said, we were regular employees. That was money we didn't have. That was money we had raised from friends, family, contacts, and it now stood there with a big negative on our balance sheet.
So let me stop you here. Okay, first of all, I'm really sorry that happened to you. What I'm wondering is when the realization comes through and you and your wife have all these people who are counting on you, how did you keep your relationship together and so you're not like coming at each other? And then what happened with the relationships with these other people who invested?
Right. Well, that's a great question. And honestly, well, first off, if we take the external relationships, that originally didn't go very well, right? Because we had to call them up and kind of go, hey, this happened. We're not in a position to pay you back. We don't know when we're going to pay you back. You're not going to get any of this interest that's accumulating like every single month and making our debt bigger and bigger. None of this is going to happen. We don't really know what to do. We'll get back to you when we figure it out. So they were obviously not very happy. With my wife, mine and Gisela's relationship, it's kind of like, it's kind of like the feeling was a little bit like being stranded on an island somewhere with a huge storm raging around you. You don't have time, energy, or, it's not a good idea to fight with the one person in the world who's actually on your side. So that's how we kind of kept it together, because we were always going, all right, how do we figure it out? We focused on trying to find a solution rather than blame, because we were both equally at fault. We'd screwed up together, right? So if we had started fighting, then everything would have come crashing down. But luckily, we looked at it as, look, we're in this. How do we figure this out?
Fantastic. And that's a great place for us to take a break and leave everybody wondering, what did they do? So we're going to take a short break and hear from some of our sponsors. Thank you for watching. Again, please feel free to engage with the program by placing comments. I see there are a lot of people watching and we'd love to hear from you. We'll be right back after this break from our sponsors.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There are 7.7 billion people on Earth today. 40% of these people are under the age of 25. Young adults are the most fertile mission field in the world today. In Scripture, we see Jesus pouring his life into 12 young adults who he equipped to change the world and all of history. Like Jesus, we believe that the best approach to reach the world with the gospel is to invest in young, emerging leaders and equip them to build disciple-making movements. Concentric is the notion of surrounding and sharing a common center. Our center is the model and strategy of Jesus for both leadership development and ministry formation. As a global alliance, we provide equipping in biblical leadership based on Jesus' example in the New Testament. Jesus modeled for us how to make disciples that reproduce. Focusing on leadership development is key to creating movements that spread the gospel and Jesus' disciple-making strategy to young leaders around the globe. Our Ministry Alliance partners are actively equipping leaders and building movements of multiplication that reproduce the life of Christ. Join us today to equip young leaders with Jesus' strategy that will change cities and nations.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAP partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAP partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type with any vehicle, give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
Use code ACADEMY2020 to receive 20% off your first 3 rides, including parking and tolls.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hello and welcome back to USA Global TV. You are watching I Have a Story to Tell, but it's his story, not mine, Daniel Wood. If you're just joining us in our first segment, Daniel shared how he and his wife saw that their young son was spending more time away from home as they were working and getting to know the teachers maybe better than their own parents. So they decided to do something about generating passive income. They went to a seminar, they bought in heart and soul, they were completely committed, they raised money from family and friends, and then the unforeseen happened. They were unfortunately lost a lot of money and now had to deal with the fallout. And so when we left on our break, we were just about to find out what happened. But before we do that, I want to let our audience know that you are offering a free introduction to property investing so that these same things will not happen to you, folks. Investing in real estate can be fantastic. And Daniel is here as somebody who's been through it, and he's going to share with you the do's and don'ts. Okay, my friend. So now back to you. What happened next?
Right. Well, so as you can imagine, we just lost about $500,000. So we were stressed out of our minds. We did not know what to do. We'd followed the system we'd learned perfectly, and it had led us to essentially total ruin. And then I got a call that would change my life forever. My accountant called me and said, Daniel, it's time to bankrupt your company. And now in the US, I know that's not too big a deal, right? You bankrupt the company, you just start a new one. For me as a Swede, that is the end of your corporate career. You will not be a business founder again once you've bankrupted your first company. That's all your credibility. No bank is going to touch you, et cetera, et cetera. So when he said that, my heart leapt and I went like, oh my God, what does this mean? What's going to happen now? And he said, well, so what we're going to do is we'll bankrupt the company, we'll write off all that debt, and then we'll set up a new one and you can start over from scratch with everything you've learned. I said, wow, that sounds good.
It sounds so simple. It's like taking your car to a car wash and now all the dirt's off of it and now it's all clean. So it sounds a little too easy, but go ahead, tell us.
Yeah, no, it sounded awesome. But I started thinking, and then I asked one question that completely changed our trajectory. And I asked him, so Michael, that sounds great. That's super, super exciting. But if we do that, if I don't have to pay off that debt, who does? That doesn't just go away. And he said, well, I mean, your investors aren't going to see much of their money back. I said, oh, okay. So you're not asking me to start over. You're asking me to throw everyone else under the bus. And he said, well, yeah, I guess that's another way of looking at it. I said, all right, so we can't do that. I mean, I don't know what we're going to do, but we're not doing that. So somehow we got to figure it out. And that's when we got really, really lucky, because as we had been starting our company, one of the big issues, I think, for a lot of people in Sweden is that like these top teachers, like in the US, you guys are used to having seminars. In Sweden, we don't have seminars. People don't come to Sweden to share business lessons, investing lessons. We generally have to go international. We have to travel to the UK. We have to travel to the US. And so just as we were starting out, me and Gisela decided to set up an event company in Sweden and start inviting speakers to Sweden. That allowed us to meet a lot of amazing people. And just around this time, as everything was kind of falling apart, we were actually hosting our second annual Empowered Women event. And so we'd started that we were going to every year do a big Empowered Women event. And this year we'd been able to actually get the author of that book that kind of started this whole journey. We'd gotten Kim Kiyosaki as the keynote speaker. And we were sitting there with her. What's great about running events is not only do you get to listen to the people speaking at the event, you get to speak with them behind stage. You get to take them out to dinner. And so we actually became very, very good friends. We're actually business partners with the Rich Dad organization today. But we told her about like what we were going through, what was going on in the situation. And, she obviously she was crushed for us and like, wow, this is horrible what you've gone through. And we told her about how we'd raised money. And she said, well, that's crazy. Who told you to do that? And I said, well, this company. They're like, but that's the worst possible way to raise money. And she helped us, like, how do we restructure our debt? How do we restructure some of our deals? How do we get out of some deals? And how do we actually have the courage to get into some new deals? And with that and a lot of other amazing people that helped us out, we worked with the Tony Robbins organization, Randy Zuckerberg's team. We worked with a lot of property experts in the UK. Among them, the gentleman who invited us or who introduced me to you, Jacalyn, It's a gentleman called Ben Chai helped us out as well. So a lot of people got involved and supported us on that journey. And slowly but surely, we started turning things around. And we started doing new deals. Those deals started compensating for the old one. It took about 100 deals to turn the business around. But finally, we were able to get to a point where we could start paying the investors back, which was such a relief.
Wow, what an incredible story. Congratulations on how the transformation. So I want to go back to when you got the phone call and basically, just screw everybody over. Nobody's going to get their money back. And you said to yourself, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And did you reach out to the investors and say, hey, I had actually been approached that maybe this is a direction I'm going to go in, but I want to let you know, investor, that we're not doing that. We're going to do whatever we have to get your money back.
Yeah, I mean, we had to be honest. I had to be kind of tough on a lot of the investors because obviously they weren't pleased. And 100% they were in the right not to be pleased. We'd screwed up. But they were talking about taking us to court, forcing us into liquidation. And so I explained, you know what? That's what my accountant is recommending we doing. If we do that, you'll get about 15% of your capital back, and I can set up a new company and go about my day as if nothing happened. So we can do that, but I don't want to. So if you can be patient with me, I'm going to figure out a way to kind of pay you back. And yes, you're not going to make profit. It's going to take a while, but I'll figure it out. And, obviously they weren't happy with it. But as one investor said, it's like, well, do I have a choice? And I said, well, look, I don't think either one of us has much of a choice here. It's rock and a hard place. But if you have some patience with me, at least I can try to get you your money back. And so all of them, I think a lot of them were talking about how much we'd screwed up and, they were not happy with it, but they didn't feel we had a choice. But what was really interesting was as we started turning things around, as we started making partial payments, paying people back and kind of proving we weren't going bankrupt, that we're somehow going to figure this out, I think their tone started to change. I'm sure a lot of them will never want to work with me, and that's obviously their prerogative. But what happened was that people that I'd never met started actually reaching out and kind of saying, hey, Daniel, I want to get into property in the UK. Can you help me? And that was the upshot of all this, because as we turned the business around, had it only been me and Gisela, had we had those $500,000 to lose of our own money, then no one would have known about any of this. But because these investors were involved, because they were talking, and because we were kind of proving, maybe not that we were good investors, but at least that we had some integrity, then that kind of got the word out and people started reaching out. And originally we said, look, no, we don't want to get involved. We got enough with our own. But at the same time, we kind of knew the trajectory they were on. We saw that they were about to do the exact same type of deals that we had done and that they were about to lose a bunch of money. So we said, no, all right, look, we will help out and we'll figure it out. And it turned out it was so fun. Obviously I was a little jealous. It was one of those things like, wow, if someone had just been there. If we had been there for ourselves, our journey would have been so easy. But because no one was, at least now we could be ourselves for someone else. And when we had one couple, amazing couple, great, there's a family with 2 kids right around our kids' age. And they invited us home. We'd help them out a lot. We'd help them find some deals. And they invited us home for dinner. It was like, you have to come to dinner on Friday in 2 weeks. And we had other plans. We said, well, can we do it on the Saturday? They said, no, it has to be the Friday. But we're busy. Can we do it some other day? They said, no, you have to come that Friday. We said, all right, we'll figure it out. We'll move some things around. And so 2 weeks later, we got there for the dinner. And, we knock on the door and, they're like, oh, hey, it's so great you're here. And, we went in. And then when we sat at the table, we were like, well, so why was it so important that we came here today? And they looked at each other and they kind of smiled and they said, well, today's a special day. I said, so why is it so special? Today was our last day of work. We quit our jobs 2 weeks ago. Today was our last day of work, and we wanted to celebrate that with you because it's thanks to you that this happened. We're celebrating with our family tomorrow, but we wanted you to be the first people to celebrate with us." I was like,
Woo-hoo!
wow.
Woo!
Oh yeah,
I love that. I've got tears in my eyes. It's beautiful.
Oh no, it was such an honor. And yeah, they moved to Spain. They live in Spain now, which is so much warmer than Sweden. It's awesome. And it was just one of those things like, wow, we were a part of that, right? Obviously they were awesome. They did it, but we were a small part of that. And that's when we kind of realized that maybe there is something to this. Maybe helping people do this is something we could do and maybe we could enjoy. And that's when we talked to our co-founder of Momentum Property Education, a extremely skilled investor, a gentleman called Lucas Brzezinski, who happens to be a risk management specialist, which we partnered with for obvious reasons. And that's what became Momentum, because we saw that, you know, people have the ability to do this. They just need the right tools. They need to know how to avoid these mistakes. And to your question there before, Jacalyn, how do you manage a property from 1,000 miles away and not get ripped off? And we'd learned that the hard way, that it's not completely easy, but there are systems you can put in place. And Lucas was one of the best I've seen at creating those systems. And together we've now helped, I think we're up to about 150 students now who've gone through and are buying property, which is really, really exciting.
Yes, congratulations. I love that. We've got a comment from Hyatt Ives. Well done, and done so ethically. Thank you, Hyatt.
That. Yeah, I really do. I mean, it was a tough journey, and it would have been so easy to throw in the towel. And you know, I'm sure a lot of the investors don't, you know, they'll probably still, if you talk to them, they'll say, well, Daniel screwed up. He's not much of an investor, but at least I can sleep, right? That's the important part. I did what I could to make sure they got a fair deal.
Well, you restored goodwill, and as a result, you mentioned huge organizations that you're aligned with. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Tony Robbins. So I want to get into tips and direction that you want to offer from an educational perspective. But how did you get involved? You mentioned this event, but what were the actual steps that took place to get the connections that you now have with these huge organizations?
That is, it's such a one of those things where a chance meeting leads to another. So we started the event company because Robert Kiyosaki came to Oslo, which is in Norway, which is our neighboring country, which has about half the number of citizens from Sweden. So we saw that he was going to Norway, so we packed up the car, we drove over, and you know, it was an amazing event. There was about, I think, 2,000 or so people in the room. But as we were talking to people, we realized about 1,000 of them were actually Swedish. So I went to the organizers of the event and I said, hey, why don't you do this in Sweden? You know, we're here, right? We all came all the way over, come to Sweden, and I'm sure you'd have an even bigger room. And they just looked at me and they said, no, Swedes aren't interested in this. What are you talking about? We're here. 1,000 of us are here. What are you talking about? Nope, Swedes don't want this. And they just walked away. And we're like, well, all right, you know what? If they're not doing it, we're doing it. And and we set up our event company, and we started bringing in just kind of small speakers, a lot of people from the UK, like business coaches and consultants. And we started doing events, and they grew. And people referred us on because we had a very, very good community, very engaged community. And that put us on the radar of a company called Success Resources. So Success Resources does all of Tony Robbins' events outside of the U.S. And they reached out and they said, well, would you like to be our partner for Sweden? We said, yeah, of course we would. We'd love to promote Tony. So we started flying in speakers from the UK to kind of do micro Tony Robbins events where people could experience some Tony Robbins here in Sweden. And it was just an amazing experience that we had in doing that. And they allowed us to come to UPW in the UK. They wanted us to expand, so they invited us over. And I was invited backstage to meet the other promoters. And that's where I met a promoter from Estonia. And then about a month later, one of our first speakers we ever had reintroduced me to that Estonian promoter who said, we got Kim Kiyosaki doing a European tour. Would you like her to come to Sweden? And, we can split some of the costs. And I obviously said, oh my, of course. Yes, we'll do that. But you say split costs. Do I pay 80%? I'm all in. I want her to come. And, we split the costs, and she came to Sweden. And that, so it was really just chance meeting by chance meeting. I think it was based on the fact that, we started the business for two reasons. One was our own kind of egotistical, we wanted to get the speakers to Sweden rather than us having to travel to the US. But the second was that we felt that we had the contacts and connections to find these speakers in the US and the UK, so we could travel and meet them, while most people in Sweden didn't even know that these speakers existed. And so we kind of felt it was a bit of a responsibility when we were in the situation we were to invite them to Sweden and share the gifts, so to speak. So we didn't do any teaching ourselves. Obviously, we were on the brink of bankruptcy. We didn't feel we had the right to teach anyone anything. But what we could do was we could bring the teachers we were learning from and who were helping us turn our business around to help others maybe in similar situations.
What a fantastic story. I'm just loving this. I'm loving this, the fact that it's turned out so well. I want to have you talk a little bit to our audience. What is the value of having passive income?
Wow, that is a question I could probably go on for an hour about. So I'm going to try to give you a short version answer. But what's nice, and really, actually, one of my friends, he says, I should stop using the term passive income, and in many ways, he's right. I should be using cash flow, because if you have a property portfolio and you have a management agent in place, it's almost passive, but you have your hour a month, you have to review all the reports, right? So technically it's not passive, but it's cash flow. What's nice about it is you can turn a monthly salary, instead of working 168 hours plus, you can do it in one. And really, for me, what's great about property investing for me, or real estate, is that, look, I do a lot of work when we're acquiring a property, right? Right now, we're looking at taking over a newly built block of flats, and we're looking at taking over about 40 flats to rent out to a combination of residential and through corporate lets. And so that takes us a lot of work. We're going to probably have put in about 100 to 150 hours of work by the time that deal is done, dusted, and stamped. And then we'll have some work ongoing, an hour or so a month to handle that. But the cash flow from that one deal will be right around $7,000 a month. So I put in the work once. I put a lot of work in it. That's about a month's, regular job, 1 month's worth of work. But then I make a monthly salary every month for the next 5 years. And so that's what's so great about it, because that now allows me a choice. Do I want to keep doing what I do, which I kind of do. I love acquiring new properties and doing new deals, and that's fun for me. But I could also say that, look, I now have $7,000 a month. I'm just going to take 4 months off. I'm going to go travel. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the other thing. And it gives me the freedom of choice. And again, I'm slightly nuts. I love doing what I'm doing. For me, I get up and I open my spreadsheet with our investment company and I go, all right, what kind of a deal are we going to do today? But for most people, they might go, hey, look, I got $7,000 a month. Let's go to Cancun.
Yeah. I love your excitement and your passion about it. So for people who are watching or listening and they're thinking, you know what? Yeah, I'd like to get that cash flow, passive income. What's the first step that people need to take to invest in real estate?
Yeah, so in many ways, I would use myself, the journey I did, as a template, because I did do the right things. I just chose the wrong teachers. So what you need to do whenever, I always fall back on the Warren Buffett quote, where Warren Buffett says, don't invest in anything you don't understand. So don't just throw yourself into real estate just because it's real estate or because I told you that it's a good investment. It's not a good investment if you don't understand the deal, if you don't understand the mechanics. So the first thing you need to do is start learning about property. That might be going to YouTube. We got a YouTube channel where we come out with videos every single week. That might be a place to start, or take our free course, or check out one of the hundreds of other YouTube channels out there. So just start getting some basic knowledge. Understand how to calculate a deal, how to evaluate a deal. But then that's not enough. I don't think it's enough. I think the next step you need to do is you got to decide, where in the world am I going to invest? And so what we've specialized on in Momentum Property Education is not investing in your own backyard, because I've never done that. I've never invested in my own backyard. I invest in the UK, and I've never been a UK citizen. I've never lived in Birmingham and invested in Birmingham. I live 1,000 miles away. So if you are, say you're in New York and you want to invest in New York, you don't come to Momentum Property Education, you ask for help. Instead, you go to someone who's successfully invested in New York. My problem was that I was investing from 1,000 miles away, and I went to a mentor who invested down the street from himself. So if you're going to start investing out of state, out of country, go to someone that is invested out of state, that is invested out of country. Do not talk, if you're in New York, don't talk to that New York investor. If you're investing in Cleveland, talk to someone from New York who's invested in Cleveland, and you'll get better advice. Does that make sense?
It sure does, yes. Now, what are your thoughts about this? Because I've heard this before. Be prepared to lose your investment. Be prepared that you might lose it. Is that, based on what you've been through, is that a valid way to look at it? Or do you go in expecting, hey, I've been promised this return on investment. I'm going to be involved, committed to this investment for X number of years in exchange for this return. And I'm just expecting the best. Or do you think that, hey, it's possible I could lose it?
Well, I'll go to door number 3 here.
Okay.
Because so the way I look at property is, you really have to, like I said, you got to know the deal, you got to understand the deal, you got to do your due diligence. Now, anything can happen in property. The market can go through the roof, the market can collapse. So you have a great presentation. Actually, that first presentation I saw Robert Kiyosaki have, he said something that I think was brilliant. He said, most people treat investing like flipping a coin. They make a bet like the market is going to go this way or it's going to go that way. And they flip the coin. And if they're right, they win. And if they're wrong, they lose. And he said, what they don't realize is that a coin can fall in 3 ways. And our job as investors is to stand on the top of that coin, and whatever way it falls, we have to position ourselves to win. And that's why you have to learn first, all right? Because what I try to do is, with any deal we do, and especially now, I didn't do this when we started out, and that's why we lost so much money, is you got to look at the best case, the worst case scenario. You got to look at, what do we do if the market goes up, if the market goes down? How do we position ourselves that we don't lose everything if something goes wrong? How do we put ourselves in a position to survive if the worst case happens? And how do we put ourselves in a position to thrive if best happens? And by doing that, we mitigate a lot of that risk that's in there. So we try, our students, so far no one's lost money on deals really at all. They've had some build costs go up, but that was in their calculation. They had the margin for it. But say the market totally crashes now. They're all positioned to handle that crash and survive. They won't thrive, but they'll survive. If the market goes up, they'll thrive. And they're positioning themselves and able to handle all those scenarios. And I think that's what you really need to do. But at the same time, if there is a deal that you've kind of expected, let's say holiday rentals, right? And then this little lockdown thing came about, right? Now, maybe that's not going to work as well. So you need to be able to sometimes cut your losses and just say, well, look, I'd rather take a $10,000 loss than lose $2,000 a month for the next 2 years. And sometimes you need to be able to bite that bullet so you don't lose your entire investment, you just take a small loss. And that's where having an advisor to talk to, or a business partner, or just a friend that's doing the same thing, to kind of bounce those ideas, someone who's not as emotionally attached to that property you own, really, really helps.
Thank you for that answer. And from a personal perspective, when you think about diversification of a portfolio, so even if you're invested strictly in real estate, you could also diversify what types of real estate deals you're invested in. And if you have a portfolio, if you have a certain amount of money that you want to invest, you can diversify and have some of it be in real estate, right?
Yeah, exactly. And what we've done, we've gotten to a point now where we have property, we got venture capital investments, we got businesses we own and run, we got cryptocurrencies we invest in, we got stocks we invest in. We've diversified, and within each of those, we are diversified. Like in property, we do developments, we do just simple residential takeovers, we do rent to rents. So we have a lot of different things. But my theory now is, I think you should try to learn one thing really, really well first, so it kind of runs per automatic. My first mentor would always call it the cookie cutter approach. Once you kind of own something, so it's like you have the cookie cutter, you can just say, all right, I want this shape, and I can do it a million times. I know how to do this. Once you get to that point, then you diversify. So learn that first strategy perfectly. Then when you got that, then you diversify with number 2, number 3, number 4. And as time goes by, you can start building this full investment company, which we're blessed to work with today. But from the outset, it starts with one strategy, one type of deal, and just do that till you know it.
I love it. Very good. We are going to take another break. And when we come back, I want us to kind of zone in on momentum property education and the value that it can bring to new people who are actively interested and watching and listening. Does that sound all right?
That's all right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to take a break and hear from a couple of our sponsors, and we'll be right back after this.
The world of healthcare is benefiting us in many ways, but the risk of becoming a victim to an airborne infection is increasing at a fast pace too. There are threats from viruses, allergic pollen, and chemicals which cause you loss of health, income, business, mental health, family and friends. All are at stake. One solution to this threat are the BV Air Sanitation Placide-based systems. When you call our team on 0208 104 3253, you find out about the amazing protection available. Protection that uses certified Battlefield, tested, standard and customized air disinfection systems for your personal and business use. Each system uses a filterless technology known as Placide, which attacks all airborne particles with microlighting to destroy and eliminate viruses and other harmful particles in your office, transport and home. You also benefit from extra bonuses such as low running and maintenance costs, no regular filter and part changes. You get to work with our trained experts and professional staff and be made aware of the latest in airborne protection and disinfection strategy. Keep yourself healthy by working with our trained experts and Placide virus killing systems, which keep you safe from airborne viruses. BV Air Sanitation Limited. We save lives, save businesses, and prevent infection. Schedule your free consultancy call and virus protection checklist. Call 0208 104 3253 or connect to us on www.bvbuster.com.
Have you just lost your job or have been laid off and you are looking to transition to a new job or career? Maybe you have even tried submitting tons of applications and yet you keep getting turned down for jobs you qualify for. Don't wait until you become overwhelmed with rejections when you can easily transition or get your dream job. Let MJW Careers guide you to the right career path and a better, brighter future. At MJW Careers, we know what hiring managers are looking for, and our goal is to land you the job you deserve. What makes MJW Careers a wonderful provider over other services is our pragmatic and scientific approach to resume writing. There are rules, there are visual cues, there are content best practices. We understand those and work within the boundaries to ensure our clients' messaging appeals to the decision makers. Our career consultants will help you transition into new roles quickly and effectively. With our experience in virtually every industry, we will provide direction in the frustrating job market by helping you write a customized, professional resume and prepare you for your interview as well. Join the great number of people we have helped scale up to greater things in their careers. Let us help you on your career journey. Come visit us, www.jobstickers.com, to learn more and grab a free resume review or ebook.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hello and welcome back. You are watching USA Global TV, and this is I Have a Story to Tell. And boy, what a story Daniel Wood has shared with us today. This is our third segment, and we are going to focus on your organization, Momentum Property Education. So do tell us, we've heard what led up to this. So what does your organization offer in terms of education, and what is this free introduction to property investing that you have?
Well, thank you so much for asking. I mean, what we did when we started Momentum, we actually spoke to about 100 property investors from all over Europe who'd kind of gone through a similar journey to us, and we asked them, what was good? What was good in your journey? But what would you have needed differently in order to have success? And we spoke to some very successful investors, and we spoke to, let's just say, less successful investors like we had started out as. And we got some great feedback. And we tried to take that and we asked them all, what would have been the perfect, program for you? What would have been perfect? And we tried to take all that information and tried to create something that could live up to that and really be what we had thought we were buying, right? And so what we'll do is, this free introduction course really just teaches the basics of property. It's really a great starting point. If you're just starting out, just go to momentumgift.com, and it shows just like, how do you do it? What are the 3 simple steps to property investing, and what are the 3 most common mistakes new investors make, and how do you avoid them? So it's lessons that we got from that meeting with Kim Kiyosaki. It's things we've learned from the Tony Robbins organization. It's just the simple step-by-step process through. Then if you turn out to be someone that's in the markets that we kind of are in, if you're an international looking to invest in the UK, then we can help you further. But if you're just looking at starting out, you're just looking at getting those basics, and you might be investing in the US, or you might be investing in your home country, or even your home city, then that's fine. The Momentum Gift will give you lots of value and guide you on that journey. You just find another mentor to help you with the next step. Because I want to make sure we're only working with you in the parts where we're actually giving you value, if that makes sense.
It definitely makes sense. And it's interesting. I think real estate is fascinating. I told you that I got my real estate license, and also as a fund manager for a specific real estate deal that I invested in. And there's so much to know. I mean, it's just, you've got to do your research. You've got to be aligned with the right organization to help you understand all of that. So what does it look like when someone reaches out to you, and how, they contact you, they go to your website, they sign up for this free introduction? What happens next?
Right. So most people, what they'll do is they'll go through the free introduction course, which it's about 2 hours. And it gives you really just, this is our investment philosophy. And what we do, which might be a little different from a lot of teachers, is really what we've done here today, where I share kind of my screw ups. That's what we dive into. One of the things that really, I would say really set me on, like, what I was invited to speak at an event, and I'm not going to say the name because that would come up as a swear word, but it's a 4-letter up nights where entrepreneurs would come and they would talk about their screw ups and how they, how the mistakes they made. And I realized that sharing that and hearing others was such a powerful way to learn as starting out. Like, what do I avoid? And so a lot of what we do is we'll show you how we screwed up and how you avoid it. So you'll start with that introduction course. And we share a lot of our journey. We're very open. We're very transparent. We always say we don't have any skeletons in the closet. We just have lots of lessons we can all learn from. From there, you'll actually get a free trial to our paid course. You'll get to try out the first module for free, which actually includes the Getting Started checklist, which is the checklist we created that will show you every single step you need to take from just starting out to actually buying your first deal. So from there, you could Google how to do each of these steps. You know, how do I set up a company? Where do I find a wholesaler or a sourcing agent, and so on. Or you can then choose to upgrade to our paid course and actually join and go through. It's only 197 euros, which is about $220, and we'll show you a lot of these things. And then if you decide to invest in the UK, we have our full mentorship where we'll literally take you by the hand. We'll introduce you to the same people that I call when I'm buying a deal. So literally right now, this building that I mentioned we're taking over, 2 other of our students are talking to this exactly same agent and looking at similar size deals right now, which is really, really cool. And one of our other students recently acquired a property through this agent. So the same people that I call are the people we introduce our mentees to, which is really, really fun.
I love that. And the fact that you have already gone through what was a negative experience and you were able to turn it around. You are an expert. And so you can give great guidance and direction. Before we close out, what's one tip that you would like to leave our audience with today?
I think if I just give one final tip, I would say the greatest key that I see to success is really all about persistence, right? We could have thrown in the towel so many times, right? We could have thrown other people under the bus so many times. And if you look at the most successful people in the world, the book I love is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, who created Nike. It's one of my favorite entrepreneurial books. Throughout the story, he's always on the brink of bankruptcy, right? It's like one late payment away from everything falling apart until finally, oh wait, we just did an IPO and we're millionaires now. And it's this really exciting journey, and it's very true that way. That entrepreneurship is really dancing on that knife's edge, but it's really, really fun. So if you have the courage to do it, as long as you have the courage to continue in the face of a challenge, you will be able to succeed. And I would love to end with a quote actually from that book, from Phil Knight's book, where he referred to a old Japanese kind of wise saying where they said, the man who moves a mountain starts by lifting away small rocks. And whatever your mountain is, start by lifting away the small rocks. Take it one step at a time, one little step at a time. And as long as you persist, that mountain, before you know it, that mountain will have moved.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Daniel. I feel like you always had integrity, but you didn't know what you didn't know. And because you're trusting a good person, you believe that everyone was the same way. And so when things didn't go well, you still had that integrity and you still had those good qualities about you, and you were able to turn it around. So thank you for sharing your story. It's quite amazing. And I'm looking forward to collaborating with you in the future and some other projects.
100%. Thank you so much for having me. And everyone who listened, thank you so much for giving of your time for us here.
And for the people who are listening on the radio who can't read the banner, the best way to get in touch with you.
So the easiest, probably just to go to momentumgift.com and get the free course. But if you'd rather connect with us on social media, you can find us on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, all of it by searching for Momentum Property Education, and you'll find us. And feel free to join our Facebook community. We have a Facebook communication or community that's linked to our Facebook page. So you can find it just by going to Momentum Property Education's Facebook page, and you'll see the international property investors there.
Fantastic. And I think you've got a little fan there. That little fly wants to stay. The fly wants to be part of our program. Don't you love it?
Yeah. It's warm days here in Sweden. They've taken over the house.
Oh my gosh, it seems to be hot everywhere. It's really hot here too. But I really appreciate this. Was a great show. So much wonderful information tied to a true story that you were able to turn around and help other people. So thank you to your wife as well. And I look forward to being in touch with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Well, so much wonderful information that is helpful for everyone. Again, we're not financial advisors, so you might want to check with your financial advisor as to what works best for you. And as my dad always would say, you can't take a brick to the bank, but a brick is a brick is a brick. So it's always going to be there. And I personally think real estate, for me, it's a good way to diversify your portfolio. But again, check with your financial advisor what works for you. Okay, so coming up literally in 15 minutes, we're starting our show early. We have A Better You. And two of our expert presenters, Teuta and Diane, are going to be presenting. And then literally right on the heels of that, we have presenting Pet Psychic Amina. And our guest is Krista Karpowicz. And her company is Wag Out Loud. And then we will end the day with stories of hope, inspiration, and overcoming adversity with our guest, Debbie McHugh. I will be interviewing her. So thank you again for being here on USA Global TV. Please do go over to our YouTube channel and subscribe. And please also reach out to Daniel Wood. As he mentioned, he is on all the social media platforms, and he is open to answering your questions and providing education when it comes to real estate investing. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you soon. Bye.